Greetings, brothers and sisters in Christ and all truth seekers. My name is Ed, and this is the Wheat and Tares channel. Today, I'm going to share a brief overview of everything that the Lord has shown me regarding the United States of America. Some of what I'm talking about is new, and some of these I've gone into more depth in other videos, but I'm going to provide it all in one place here, where I give the main points of everything that I've been shown. And so the first one is a dream I had about Russian planes in the United States. And it was very interesting how this was revealed to me, because I was standing on the ground and I was looking up, and there was a huge cloud in the sky. And I could see the shadows of warplanes cast against the cloud. But the planes themselves I couldn't make out. It was as if they were cloaked. But they were still blocking out the sun, and so their shadows were clearly seen on the cloud. And they were clearly warplanes. I grew up near an Air Force base. I know what they look like. There was at least 2 different models that I saw, and there were lots of them. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And in the dream, there were 2 men that were monitoring radar equipment, or whatever is used in the modern age to detect aircraft in the sky. And these 2 American men were just completely bewildered, because they saw the planes, they saw the shadows on the cloud, same as I did, and they were checking their equipment, and there was absolutely nothing showing up on it at all. And one of them said that this many planes should have registered an event on their equipment, but they were not seeing it. And so that was the dream. I don't know if these planes had some kind of cloaking technology, or if it simply symbolized the fact that the U.S. won't see them coming, but there was neither a visual make on them or anything on the equipment. The second one I'm going to share was a dream I had that I did a video about. I'll include a link to it in the description. And so this one was about Islam in America. And I was walking around, and there were a lot of people wearing the typical Islamic headgear, both women and men. It was very prominent. It had to be like half the people or more. And in the dream, I ended up being attacked by 2 Islamic men. And I prayed to the Lord, and He delivered me from them. And there was a very important message I received about this dream the day after, when I was praying to Jesus about what I had seen, what had happened. And what you have to understand is that some people will be delivered. Christians will be delivered, but others won't be. And understand that those who are saved, those who are delivered from death in these end times that we're going into, are the ones that are going to have it harder. So don't assume those are the ones that receive mercy. Many people will be martyred, and it's really, in many cases, the martyrs are the ones who are receiving the mercy versus those who are left behind. So please be preparing spiritually, as well as things you can do physically. The third dream I had was about a changing foundation in the United States. And so this dream began inside a huge, pristine mansion. And this mansion represented the U.S. And just everything was perfect, polished, very high quality, very expensive looking. And it had a floor, and it had a very nice white polished floor. And in the dream, I just remember thinking that, a darker, more earth tone color would hide dirt better. And then just like that, the floor changed, and there was a new foundation. And the new foundation was such a color as to hide dirt. And that's exactly what it was doing. It was as if that pristine foundation had been changed for a dirty one, but it hid it. It was like nobody noticed. The foundation of the nation was changing, but it still looked the same to most people, unless you have the spiritual eyes to look more carefully. And so this applied to the United States as a nation, and I believe specifically it applies to the church as well, where many people are going through the motions. They're doing the same things as before. It might seem like the U.S. is as much of a Christian nation as it's ever been, but leaven has seeped into the church slowly by slowly, and it's reached a point now where it's quite filthy, but people, they don't see it. They don't see that foundation has changed. The fourth one is a dream the Lord gave me about chimeras, and I also did a video on this that's much more in depth that I'll include in the description. And so the biggest key point I want to emphasize in this dream, in which I saw a woman who brought forth a hybrid baby twins. They looked mostly human, but were clearly part monkey. And these things, they were born dead. So all the afterbirth, the placenta, usually something that's pink, red, wet, filled with life. This was very black and very dark red and black mixture. It looked dried, it looked dead. I don't believe this is saying that that's what it'll actually look like when these things are born. It's shown that they're born dead. They are spiritually dead. These things are empty vessels, ripe to be filled with demons. This is a great insult to God, to take human beings who are made in His image and to combine them genetically with beasts. And so I want to emphasize that you don't have empathy for these things when you start to see them more in the public eye. That you don't start to say, well, it's half human, or it's mostly human. Maybe it has a soul. Maybe it can receive the Lord. Maybe it can be saved. That is not the case. These things are an abomination. And so do not harbor in your heart tenderness and feelings and support for this sort of thing when you see it. And understand the Lord judges the heart. So even if you don't have chimeras yourself, even if you don't publicly support them through supporting some cause or being very outspoken, if in your heart you are harboring feelings for these things that are positive and support from them in your heart, that's going to condemn you. These things are a great offense for God. If you are close to our Father, you should recognize what a horrible abomination this is, to take His creation and to twist it like that. And so that was the main key message. These things are born dead. So get that through your mind right now from the start, so you can prepare emotionally for when they start to be unveiled more publicly. And then the second thing that I noticed that was very noteworthy was the woman, and it was very prideful and very fierce. You could tell she loved these things and that she would protect them. She'd kill you if she thought you were going to threaten her chimera abominations. Lots and lots of pride in her eyes and in her look. So the fifth dream that I had regarded financial manipulation. The last video I did was about that. I had two dreams in one night. There was some kind of program that people registered for, and they ended up losing property. They ended up losing assets. They basically became owned, was what I was shown. And it was interesting. When I made that video, I didn't know what I'm about to share with you now, but it was very prominent in the dream that they had to register. You had to register for this program, and then that's what resulted in the bad ending. And so registration, we register for everything. You register kids for school, you register for this, you register for that, you register for an email list on your email. It's a very common, casual thing for us, but I did some research and found that there's a legal definition for registration that's different than the common definition that we use. And the legal definition for registering something actually involves abandoning total ownership, and you only have partial ownership. And so I think that's very key. If you register something, then whoever you register with, if it's the government, you are actually handing over ownership to them. And so in times of financial emergency, they might claim that asset. And so I'll put up here on the screen the definitions I found, multiple sources. You can vet them yourself. I'm not a lawyer, nor am I a linguist, but this is what I found in regards to the meaning of registration. The sixth dream I had regarded times of scarcity in the United States. And so this dream began with me walking through a neighborhood in Richmond, Virginia. And what is most notable about Richmond is that it's not notable to me at all. I didn't know anything about it prior to this dream, except that it's a city in Virginia, and they have a university there whose mascot is a spider. Those are the only two things I knew about Richmond. But in this dream, I was walking through this neighborhood, and it had these houses that were very close together, and they were built up multiple stories like townhouses or just very closely spaced houses. And after the dream, I went and I searched for houses in Richmond, Virginia, and immediately saw almost the same houses, very similar to what was in my dream. And so this particular neighborhood looked like a pretty nice neighborhood, middle-class neighborhood, but very nice. Again, the homes were close together. The yards in front were not very big. The road was narrow. Everyone was kind of squished fairly close together, but it was an established neighborhood. There was nice green areas where there was a little bit of space. The homes appeared to be well maintained. And as I walked through it, I was very comfortable in this neighborhood, and I got the impression of neighbors that look out for each other. So if there was a suspicious person trying to case houses, there'd be a lot of eyeballs on him and he would be uncomfortable and leave. If somebody was, looking at children playing in the road a little too much, there'd be multiple neighbors that would see it, make that person uncomfortable, and they would move on. So it was a place where neighbors looked out for each other. And indeed, any one house where you're at, there must have been like 7 or more, 8 other houses that had a pretty clear view of you, because again, they were very narrow and tall and very close together. And then the other side of the street as well was so close that if you stuck your head out the front door and started talking to a neighbor across the street who was sticking their head out their front door, you wouldn't really need to shout or anything. You could almost talk normal and hear each other because of how close it was together. And so this was a big advantage of this neighborhood, was that it was so friendly and everyone kept an eye out for each other. But then suddenly a very sick feeling came over my stomach as a thought intruded about what would happen when times of scarcity came. And so now it's a time when people are struggling to make ends meet. And now you live in this neighborhood where everyone can see you all the time. They can tell when you come, they can tell when you go. They see what you're taking into your house and what you're taking out of your house. And it became just a very sick, foreboding feeling, just that thought of what's going to happen when times are not good, during times of scarcity. And so that was the dream. Just to be clear, I'm not giving advice on how to live your life. Having a lot of neighbors watching you in times when things are rough could be a tough situation. But obviously being in a place where you're isolated and don't have neighbors during a time where there's scarcity could bring its own dangers and challenges. I always advise everyone, get as close as you can to Jesus, rely on him. A lot of times our walk in faith, it's day by day, it's step by step. He wants you dependent on him. So we should try to prepare as much as we can as well in the physical world. But understand that, he's the one that we have to be counting on, relying on. Do what you can, but whatever plans you make, always keep in mind that it's God willing. So the 7th one I'm going to share is about judgment and destruction in the United States. And I did a whole video on this as well that I'll also put in the link below. And so in a nutshell, the Lord kept directing me to Jeremiah chapter 51 and 52, which is about the destruction of Babylon. It's been laid on my heart that represents the United States, and that the judgments that fell in that ancient civilization, that mixed people that had so much world influence, that were also corrupt and were greatly judged just 70 years after they conquered Israel and many of the surrounding nations as a judgment by God against them. They themselves fell to the Persian Medes. And so it talks also in those chapters about the king of the north coming to bring destruction to Babylon. I do believe that represents Russia. Read through the chapters yourself, I encourage you. And I think you'll see that it's very relevant for today. It certainly does describe the nation as we know it now. It talks about how the whole the hammer of the whole earth is cut off. Who's the hammer of the whole earth today? If you asked anyone what one country would you say would be the hammer of the earth, everyone's going to say the United States of America. The 8th dream I had involved people at an airport, and they were waiting in line. It was a long line, and everybody had their documentation. And as people walked up, they were getting turned away, and so they were shown IDs and whatever else. I couldn't see what all documentation they had, but one person after the other, after the other was denied the ability to travel. And there was one man that was waiting in line who kind of joked that, oh, all the terrorists must have showed up early. But people were very nervous. They were uneasy. Everyone was afraid that they would not be permitted to travel. And there was a man who came up. It was his turn. And he was so nervous, even though he said that he had all the documentation that was required. He was very fastidious. Everything they asked for, he had. But it still had this feeling of a time and place where it seemed to be almost at the whim of the authorities if they would allow you to get through or not. And so that was that dream. And then the ninth dream I'm going to share, and this one was a continuation of that same dream actually, and it showed in another area where they were selling beverages and food and things as they do at airports. And one thing that did catch my eye on this dream is there was some kind of drink. It looked like almost a grape soda or purple colored drink. And it was promoting homosexuality. I don't remember what it said on it, but something like LBGQABC is grape, instead of great or something like that. I mean, I made that up. But it was promoting that agenda very, very openly. My daughter wanted some fruit punch is what it looked like. And so we had grabbed that, and there was a drink kiosk where you paid at. And so somebody motioned us to come over there to pay. I handed the man at the kiosk $20, and he handed me back a plastic card for change. And I was confused about receiving this card instead of change. And the man seemed to enjoy my confusion. He carried on with this sort of, oh, didn't you know, attitude. Even though obviously whatever was going on had changed very quickly. And so this card he'd given me was a new system of money. Cash was being done away with. And as I looked at it, in the dream at this like card money, I remember thinking that this was the B system. And I was wishing that I had left the country and prepared sooner, as things were difficult and changing fast. And in this dream, I was only at the airport. And so I had lamented not heeding earlier warnings. And I wanted to cry out, the B system, the B system, the B system is here. So those were the dreams. I wanted to share these in the hope that it'll help somebody out there. I am not a prophet. I do operate in the spiritual gift of prophecy, as all of us are implored to pray for, to receive, according to the words of Paul in the Bible. Do not believe the false teachers that claim that the gifts of the Spirit no longer exist today, or that the Bible says they were all taken away from earth. There's no such verse anywhere in the Bible. I want to get back to teaching. That's what I'm called to do, but I certainly don't want to keep any of the things that I've been shown inside. If it can benefit somebody else, I want to get out there and share it. Rather 5 people, 50 people, 500 or 5,000 people see it. So thank you for listening, and please have a blessed rest of your day. Until the next time, goodbye.